The daily commute using light rail transit systems is daunting enough for people who have all their physical faculties. How more daunting can it be for those persons with disabilities? Morning Forum addresses this question.
Online news website Rappler, along with accessibility group Kasali Tayo and inclusive mobility group Move as One Coalition, conducted a walkthrough at all stations and terminals of the various light rail transit systems in Metro Manila, LRT-1, LRT-2, and the MRT-3. The objective was to find out how the Metro's commuter rail services serve persons with disabilities, or PWDs, those with hearing impairments, those who are visually impaired, and people who move around in wheelchairs. The walkthrough was undertaken unannounced and without the knowledge of the train system's management. What the walkthrough found out was not good for PWDs who wish, in Rappler's words, to travel safely, independently, and with dignity using the Metro's commuter train network. The list of findings is troubling. 80% of train stations lack fully accessible entrances for persons with disabilities. 67% of train stations had working elevators but were difficult to access for PWDs. 40% of stations lack comfort rooms for PWDs, and many of the existing ones were locked or used for other purposes, or were difficult to access or find. 43% of trains and stations provided insufficient public announcements about approaching trains and safety reminders. Other findings include inadequate or inconsistent tactile flooring to guide people with visual impairments. Only 3 of 46 stations had sufficient network of tactile flooring. No ticket vending machines that have tactile buttons, braille and text-to-speech functions. The floor of train carriages of LRT-1 line was higher than the floor of the platform. Maintenance of stations to protect persons with disabilities was also found severely wanting. Overall, the walkthrough discovered what Rappler described as systemic shortcomings in Metro Manila's train networks, which it said boiled down to 2 problems: lack of policies and shortcomings in implementation. Rappler also noted the Metro trains' lack of consistency and predictability, especially with regards to making the trains and stations accessible and safe for PWDs. So how can this problem be solved and the train systems be made more accessible and safer for all PWDs? The basis for PWD facilities in train stations and most other infrastructure and buildings nationwide is Batas Pambansa Bilang 344 and its implementing rules and regulations, which has not been updated since 1994. Rappler reported that a new IRR for BP 344 has already been crafted and endorsed to the heads of the Department of Public Works and Highways and Department of Transportation for approval and subsequent implementation. New policies for PWD inclusive mobility have also been proposed and incorporated into an executive order submitted for signing by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Senator Raffy Tulfo has also filed Senate Bill No. 1700 seeking to amend the accessibility law. The Move as One Coalition is advocating the creation of a commuter's welfare office and a commuter bill of rights. There is a need for people to lobby and pressure government, both legislative and executive departments, to fast-track or facilitate legislation, formulate policies, and enforce laws and regulations that would benefit PWDs and their welfare.
While there is a need to update policies and regulations to make lives better, easier, and more inclusive for PWDs, what laws there are should be strictly implemented and enforced. That's our Morning Forum this week, courtesy of Suzuki Philippines.